Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you all today. Thank you very much for the introduction, Will. And Vanessa, applause to you. That was admirable passion first thing in the morning. As Will mentioned, my name is Alana, and I'm a partner at Singleton Reynolds here in Vancouver. To give you a bit of background about myself, I am 41 years old. I've been practicing business law for approximately 15 years. I grew up in the Valley. I did all my schooling at UBC. I have a passion for traveling. I also have an equivalent passion for Netflix and ice cream, but I digress. I had a funny moment the other day that I wanted to share with you all. And I had been in Metrotown with my partner and his two girls. And there's a store that's very attractive for younger folks these days, and it's called Justice. I don't know whether any of you know about this store. I have never seen so many unicorns and sequins in my entire life. Now, what was charming about all of this is the 7 and 9-year-old enjoyed it, as did I. There was a t-shirt, had it been about half my size, that I would have bought, and it said, "BRB, be right back, I'm off to find my unicorn." And I may have a unicorn taped behind my office door to the wall. It's a deflated helium balloon from my birthday last year. Suffice it to say, not all lawyers come in the same shape or size. But on a more serious note, I'm here today to talk to you about leadership, my understanding of the concepts of leadership, what it means to me. So as a partner, as a lawyer generally, and just as me, leadership is part of my everyday. And it's always changing. As I learn more, as I get another year under my belt as a partner, as I mature, I like to think I get a little wiser. That may be debatable, but here we are. My job as a lawyer is to teach and to guide. I have a responsibility not only to my clients, but also to the staff who I work with, the lawyers who I work with. Our job as lawyers is to create rapport and to listen. We have a duty to ensure that the people we work with feel informed, cared for, heard, understood. When it specifically comes to clients, we're not there to problem solve. We're there to provide them the information they need to get to where they need to go. And as Azuka would like to say, to lead you towards clarity. Now, quite frankly, I am far too literal of a person to actually like the word clarity. I think it's an impossibility. But I really like the concept of a journey. This is a journey for leadership, in leadership for me. And it's a journey towards achieving greater clarity. And in order to be able to do that, I think you need to have an openness and a willingness to try new things and to learn new things. Now, when I was preparing for this presentation, I was talking to my friend and colleague, Veronica, and she was telling me that I should talk about my travels in this presentation. And I kind of love that idea, in part because I love talking about traveling, but B, because traveling, I think, encompasses all those key components of what is leadership. If you think about it, when you've been traveling, you have to put yourself in a position where you're courageous. You have to do things that you would never normally do, whether it's from being in a restaurant where you can't read the menu and you've got to ask somebody, what should I have, to being at a train station and being like, that's the train? I guess that's the train I'm getting on. Traveling requires you to be vulnerable. And I think this vulnerability theme is going to pop up a few times. But you have to exhibit trust the people around you. You have to be able to exercise judgment. You have to be willing to ask for advice and take that advice. You have to watch, listen, and learn as to what's happening around you when you're traveling. Now, in preparing for this as well, I've been doing a bit of reading. And as I was talking to some lovely ladies at Coast Capital here, I am kind of enamored by Brené Brown's work these days. She's a bit of a hot topic. If you don't know her, I highly recommend some of her work. She has a great 1-hour presentation on Netflix. But she talks about vulnerability, courage, authenticity, all in context of daring leadership in your personal life and in your professional lives. And she had a quote that I wanted to share with you all today that I thought was helpful. And she says that adaptability to change, hard conversations, feedback, problem solving, ethical decision-making, recognition, resilience, and all those other skills that you need that underpin daring leadership are born of vulnerability. In other words, you can't have courage without being vulnerable. You can't have that courage without addressing those fears and anxieties. And I don't know whether you've ever physically felt that dynamic, that dual dynamic of courage and fear, or courage and vulnerability at the same time. I suspect it happens to a lot of us without us necessarily realizing it's happening. But I've had it happen once, physically, in my life. And it was when I was on a trip. I was in India, and a girlfriend and I had taken a tour through India, and we had chosen this particular tour because it had involved a cruise of the Ganges. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not naive. It was not a fancy cruise. But I didn't quite expect what we did end up on. And when my friend and I rounded the corner and we saw the boats that we were going to spend 3 days on, I promptly burst into tears and started laughing. I was essentially rowed down the Ganges in a leaky rowboat for 3 days. The guys who were rowing us would lean back in the water and take a drink right out of the river. It was wild. It's kryptonite for North Americans. So stepping back into my present reality, becoming a partner, not necessarily hard. Being a partner, I have to say, is one of the hardest things I've ever undertaken. Forget school, bit of a cakewalk. Even those early years of being a lawyer, they really suck, quite frankly. Not so bad. Because at the end of the day, that's just about you. Becoming a partner in a law firm is more than just myself now. And not unlike a lot of you who are business owners or entrepreneurs, you have all these other things that you're responsible for. I now have 15 other people I have to get to know in a very different way. I was an associate, now I'm a partner. There's a different relation dynamic to get to know. I have to learn the business of the firm, from where decisions are made, how they're made, who's making them, the finances. What is my contribution? I can no longer sit back. I'm part of this. This is the future. In addition to that, I'm responsible for continuing to build my own practice. It's kind of like a business within a business in a way. I have to continue to build those relationships outside of work, bring in the business. It's even more emphatic now that I continue to bring in business because it's my future. It's the future of the lawyers who I'm working with on a go forward. I am responsible for increasing the firm's profile within the community. I am in charge of mentoring, not only staff, but junior associates. Suffice it to say, all of that adds up to a fair amount of anxiety. And to be perfectly honest, that doesn't necessarily come out always in the nicest of ways. For myself, as a typical type A personality, I can often be visibly frustrated. I sometimes receive answers that I don't understand why I've received that answer, or I am consistently being interrupted, which can be very frustrating. I'm often too tired, and you don't necessarily respond the best when you're tired. I don't eat the way I should. I don't exercise the way I should. Half my closet doesn't fit the way it should. But all of this is part of this leadership journey. What I'm doing now is taking what I'm learning and receiving about what's happening around me and trying to figure out what to do with it. And so in kind of doing a little bit of a deep dive to make this presentation, I kind of came away with 4 takeaways that I thought would be useful to share. The first is to be open to learning. I recently got a new Amazon order that arrived at the office, and yes, I still buy like physical books, and it was all nonfiction. And if you know me at all, that's not what I read. I much prefer to escape into a nice little story. But at this point in time, it feels really important to me to have some information. I need something more to help me out. Be open to that advice and that kind criticism that others may give you. I have a partner who's an entrepreneur through and through. He has an understanding of people, relationships, leadership, unlike myself. And we have very different backgrounds. He has a very sports-oriented background, team-oriented background, and I come from the exact opposite. He'll call me out. It's not comfortable. But I'm also very grateful for it because it gives me something else to think about, to process, implement, maybe see something from a different light. 3, communicate. We are all very social beings and we need our people. There's different ways to do this, whether it be blogging, journaling, gratitude statements, therapy, socializing with your peers. I know for me at work, when it comes to communicating, it's very important to me that I apologize when I should apologize, that I express why I'm frustrated when it does occur. And especially in a law firm, you spend a lot of time with all these people you work with, like a lot. And so it's really important to get to know everybody who you're working with and what's going on in their lives. And everybody's got their story, everybody's got their stuff. I've got an assistant who's facing 65 and what that means to her. We have a paralegal who has a partner who's just been diagnosed with cancer. We have another paralegal who's got a 3-year-old and all the joys and challenges that come with that. We have a new associate right over there who's new to the city, let alone a new firm. And the takeaway from all of this, oh wait, sorry, I forgot my fourth point. Fourth point is to acknowledge those limitations and hesitations when you feel them, when you butt up against them. If you're actually paying attention to yourself, you'll feel it when you hit up against them. I'll be sitting in my office and I can feel myself holding myself back, and I don't know why. And I'm not saying you have to push through it, but if you acknowledge those, I think you're taking a step forward to looking at yourself and figuring out where you're trying to go. At the end, I think it's all a subtle shift. It's a conscious intention. It's a willingness to learn new things, try new things. If you connect with yourself, you can connect with others. I kind of have a challenge now for myself, having gone through this, and I put this out to you all as well, is to each day, put yourself on the line. Feel all the things, be all the things. Don't do as you normally would always do. With that, I think you can gain the momentum to evolve and take that journey in leadership. And on that note, thank you.